Well, it's my fault. See, we have a sort of a situation here.
Bing Crosby sang White Christmas to millions, but his private life was full of racist jokes. Al Jolson became the first sound movie star, but in blackface. And they weren't alone. Here are 25 racist Hollywood legends, and the last entry will shock you. Let's start with number 25, Sidney Toler.
I came to search for black sheep and find only black cat.
Picture this. In the late 1930s, and Hollywood audiences can't get enough of the Chinese detective Charlie Chan. But the man playing him? Sidney Toler, a white actor from Missouri, painted up in yellow face. Why would a major studio think that was acceptable? After Warren Oland's death in 1938, Fox needed a replacement for its profitable Charlie Chan franchise. Toler stepped in, making 17 films where he exaggerated Asian accents, shuffled across sets, and delivered Confucian proverbs written by white screenwriters. Critics at the time praised him as authentic, though he never spoke a word of Mandarin. Isn't that wild? Each movie reinforced the idea that white men could own Asian identity as a costume. And here's the twist. Actual Chinese American actors were banned from playing Chan because studio heads believed audiences wouldn't accept them. Can you imagine being told your own identity wasn't believable enough? Toler died in 1947, still remembered as Charlie Chan. The irony? His legacy helped lock Asian actors out of leading roles for decades. And if you thought Yellowface was shocking here, wait until you see what a beloved child star did for laughs. Next up is number 24, Lawrence Tibbett.
You know, I took my wife Esther and my 2 little daughters to hear you sing Rigoletto at the Met last year.
Lawrence Tibbett wasn't just any actor. He was one of MGM's prize stars in the 1930s and a celebrated opera baritone at the Metropolitan Opera. Critics called him the golden voice of Hollywood. But behind the praise, his fame rested on something deeply disturbing: blackface. In 1930, Tibbett starred in The Rogue Song, MGM's first full-color musical. The movie earned him an Academy Award nomination, but he also performed songs on stage and radio while wearing shoe polish to darken his skin. Audiences cheered, but think about it. This was one of America's most respected singers, getting applause for mocking black identity. He wasn't alone. Blackface was normal in vaudeville and early film, but Tibbett's level of prestige made it worse. Imagine millions tuning into national radio broadcasts, hearing his celebrated voice while he leaned into racist stereotypes for laughs and applause. His records sold in huge numbers, and he was adored internationally. Yet his legacy remains tied to a system that silenced real black performers while paying him fortunes. And if that stunned you, the next star used silver screens to spread something even uglier: colonial myths. Moving on to number 23, Thomas Meighan. Thomas Meighan was one of silent Hollywood's clean-cut leading men. By the 1920s, he ranked among the top 10 box office stars, appearing in more than 50 films. He worked with Paramount, earned salaries of over $10,000 a week, staggering money at the time, and was marketed as the all-American gentleman. But those polished roles often came at the expense of others. In films like The Miracle Man, 1919, and The Racket, 1929, Meighan embodied white heroism while portraying immigrants, indigenous people, or black characters as criminals, villains, or background props. These movies shaped audience beliefs, reassuring white viewers they were superior. Remember, in the 1920s, over 100 million tickets sold each week in America. That's a lot of influence. His characters always restored order, which meant preserving a white-dominated world. While Meighan was adored by fans, his films reinforced dangerous myths that lingered long after his career ended. If Meighan's stereotypes propped up old fears, the next Hollywood darling used exotic makeup to play races that weren't his own, for decades. Now, at number 22, Marlon Brando.
Do you love me or don't you? Because if you don't...
Marlon Brando is remembered as a rebel, the man who reshaped acting with A Streetcar Named Desire, 1951, and The Godfather, 1972. But before he became Hollywood's conscience, he cashed paychecks for roles drenched in racism. In 1956's The Tea House of the August Moon, Brando played a Japanese interpreter named Sakini. He taped his eyelids, spoke broken English, and dressed in silk robes, yellowface at its peak. The film even won awards, but real Japanese actors were sidelined. Just a year later, in Sayonara 1957, Brando again dove into Asian themes, playing an American officer entangled in forbidden love with a Japanese woman. While the movie addressed prejudice, Brando's earlier role made it clear Hollywood preferred a white man pretending Asian over hiring one. And it didn't stop there. In One-Eyed Jack's 1961, he leaned into savage stereotypes of indigenous men. Later, Brando famously supported civil rights, even sending Sacheen Littlefeather to the Oscars in 1973. But those earlier roles remind us, even icons built career by exploiting stereotypes first. And if Brando shocked you, wait until you see how one of America's most respected actresses painted her own face. Next is number 21, Katharine Hepburn.
I do my work in there. Perhaps if you don't get me with my husband, if he doesn't get home in time.
Katharine Hepburn is hailed as one of Hollywood's greatest actresses. She won 4 Oscars, more than any performer in history, and her career stretched over 60 years. But even Hepburn's legacy carries a stain. In 1944, she starred in Dragon Seed, playing a Chinese peasant named Jade. Instead of hiring an actual Chinese actress, MGM dressed Hepburn in yellowface, darkened makeup, altered eyes, and a forced accent. She delivered lines about fighting Japanese invaders, but audiences were watching a white woman pretending to be Asian. The film was praised at the time, even earning an Academy Award nomination. But imagine the contradiction. While Asian Americans were serving in World War II, Hollywood still refused to cast them in their own stories. Hepburn, with her star power, could have pushed back. She didn't. Historians now call Dragon Seed a prime example of whitewashing. And for Hepburn, remembered as progressive and independent, the role shows how even icons accepted Hollywood's racist systems when it suited them. And if that feels unsettling, the next star took it further. She claimed the role of an Egyptian queen for herself. On to number 20, Elizabeth Taylor.
I know who you are. What are you at the...
Elizabeth Taylor was already a superstar when she took on her most ambitious role, Cleopatra in 1963. The production nearly bankrupted 20th Century Fox, costing over $31 million, the most expensive film of its time. But the bigger scandal? Taylor, a white British-American actress, was cast to play Egypt's legendary queen. Instead of hiring an actress of Middle Eastern or African heritage, the studio poured millions into golden costumes, jewels, and elaborate sets, while Taylor's face became the symbol of Cleopatra. The movie earned 4 Oscars and smashed box office records, yet it reinforced a dangerous Hollywood pattern: non-white history told through white skin. Taylor herself was celebrated as the most beautiful woman alive, her violet eyes immortalized in posters. But behind the glamour, critics called it one of cinema's most blatant examples of whitewashing. Even today, historians argue Cleopatra likely had mixed heritage, making Taylor's portrayal an erasure rather than representation. The irony? A role meant to honor ancient power became a reminder of modern exclusion. And if Cleopatra was stolen for profit, wait until you see who built an entire career selling Asian stereotypes. Coming in at number 19, Warner Oland.
Explain, please, ability to stay with Hunt without glimpse of fuck.
Warner Oland was a Swedish-born actor who became world-famous for playing Charlie Chan, a Chinese detective. From 1931 to 1937, he starred in 16 Charlie Chan films, each one a box office hit. Audiences loved the wise sayings and calm mannerisms, but behind the makeup was a white man in full yellowface. Oland glued on slanted eyebrows, taped his eyelids, and spoke in a slow, broken style Hollywood imagined Chinese people sounded like. Studios marketed him as authentic, yet he never spoke Chinese and couldn't pronounce basic words. Real Asian American actors? Well, they were kept to tiny sidekick roles or pushed out entirely. The irony is striking. Oland also played Fu Manchu, a villain written as a symbol of the Yellow Peril. In one decade, he profited by embodying both the threatening and the friendly Asian stereotype, two sides of the same racist coin. By the time he died in 1938, Oland was praised as a Hollywood success story, but his films left behind a legacy that excluded real Asian performers for generations. And if yellowface feels shocking here, the next star's childhood routines went even further, with blackface on stage. Next is number 18, Shirley Temple.
Good morning, nature hunts when morning comes along.
Shirley Temple was Hollywood's most famous child star of the 1930s. At just 6 years old, she was already a box office sensation, saving Fox Studios from bankruptcy during the time of the Great Depression. Her curls, dimples, and cheerful songs brought in millions, but hidden behind the sweetness were performances that feel shocking today. In films like The Little Rebel, 1935, and Dimples, 1936, Shirley danced alongside white co-stars in blackface. She even performed minstrel-style numbers, smiling while her partners wore exaggerated dark makeup. Audiences at the time found it cute, but the routine mocked black culture and normalized racist stereotypes. Even worse, these scenes came as African-American performers were barred from leading roles. Shirley's films grossed millions worldwide, yet the real black dancers and singers who inspired those routines weren't even allowed in the spotlight. By adulthood, Shirley had transitioned into politics and diplomacy, remembered as America's sweetheart. But her childhood career shows how deeply racism was baked into Hollywood entertainment, even through its most innocent face. And if seeing a child star in blackface surprises you, the next filmmaker didn't just profit from stereotypes, he glorified the Ku Klux Klan. Let's talk about number 17, D.W. Griffith. D.W. Griffith is often called the father of modern cinema. His 1915 epic, The Birth of a Nation, revolutionized filmmaking with new camera angles, editing techniques, and massive battle scenes. The film made over $60 million in early ticket sales, a fortune for its time, but its story, a 3-hour love letter to white supremacy. In The Birth of a Nation, African Americans were portrayed as dangerous, ignorant, and violent, many played by white actors in blackface. Meanwhile, the Ku Klux Klan rode in as noble heroes, saving the South from chaos after the Civil War. The movie was screened in the White House by President Woodrow Wilson, who reportedly said it was like writing history with lightning. That endorsement gave racism the stamp of official approval. The film sparked protests across the country, especially from the NAACP, but it also inspired the revival of the Klan, which grew to millions of members by the 1920s. Griffith claimed he wasn't racist, just telling history. But his masterpiece gave hate a stage bigger than ever. And if Griffith used movies to empower the Klan, the next Hollywood idol helped glamorize the Confederacy itself. Now for number 16, Clark Gable.
I'm leaving you, my dear. All you need now is a divorce, and your dreams of Ashley can come true.
Clark Gable was nicknamed the King of Hollywood. By the late 1930s, he was the biggest star in the world, commanding salaries of $100,000 per film, astronomical at the time. His most famous role? Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind, 1939. The movie became the highest-grossing film of its era, earning the equivalent of over $3 billion today. But what audiences were really watching was a glamorized version of the slave-holding South. Gable's Rhett swept Scarlett O'Hara off her feet while plantations were shown as picturesque, and enslaved black characters were reduced to loyal servants. Critics praised Gable as irresistible, while civil rights groups condemned the film for whitewashing history. Ironically, Gable privately disliked segregation. During filming in Atlanta, black cast members like Hattie McDaniel were barred from the premiere. Gable threatened to boycott unless they were included, but the studio ignored him. Still, his image as Rhett became forever tied to nostalgia for the Confederacy. Hollywood crowned him a romantic hero, but the role preserved a dangerous myth. And if Clark Gable symbolized charm, the next actor symbolized something harsher. Yellowface played for laughs. Next is number 15, Mickey Rooney.
Yeah, how's every little thing?
Just fine.
That's good. Well, I'll see you later, huh?
Mickey Rooney was once America's favorite boy. By the 1940s, he was the top box office star for 3 straight years, pulling in millions for MGM. But in 1961, his career took a dark turn with Breakfast at Tiffany's. Rooney played Mr. Yunioshi, a Japanese landlord. Instead of authenticity, he wore fake buck teeth, taped eyelids, and yelled in a shrill, broken accent. Audiences in the 1960s laughed. Today, it's one of Hollywood's most infamous examples of yellowface. Rooney later claimed he never meant to offend, but Asian American groups have long criticized the role as humiliating. Even the film's director, Blake Edwards, admitted before his death that he regretted casting Rooney this way. The role overshadowed much of Rooney's later legacy, proving how comedy can age into cruelty. Think about it. An actor once loved by millions left behind a performance remembered more for its racism than for its charm. But if Mickey Rooney mocked Asian identity, the next legend took an even bigger role in romanticizing slavery itself. Moving on to number 14, James Stewart.
Mary, I know what I'm going to do tomorrow and the next day and next year and the year after.
James Stewart was the face of decency in Hollywood. Films like It's a Wonderful Life, 1946, and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington made him the symbol of honesty. By the 1950s, he had starred in over 50 movies and even won the Medal of Freedom for his World War II service as a bomber pilot. But behind the all-American image, there were reports of troubling decisions. In the 1970s, when Stewart worked on his sitcom, The Jimmy Stewart Show, producers considered casting black co-stars in major roles. Stewart allegedly resisted, claiming it would upset his audience in the South. While Stewart never faced the same scandals as others on this list, this choice mattered. At a time when television was slowly opening up for non-white performers, his influence kept doors closed. It was a quieter form of racism, less visible than blackface, but equally powerful in shaping what audiences saw. If Stewart quietly resisted change, the next man built an entire empire, glorifying the Klan. Next is number 13, David O. Selznick.
You're a conceited, black-hearted varmint, Red Butler. I don't know why I let you come and see me.
David O. Selznick was one of Hollywood's most powerful producers. His masterpiece, Gone with the Wind, 1939, became the highest-grossing film of all time when adjusted for inflation, earning over $3.7 billion in today's money. It won 10 Academy Awards and cemented his legend. But the story he chose to tell was a dangerous one. Selznick romanticized the Old South, portraying enslaved people as happy and loyal, while turning the Confederacy into something noble. He cut scenes that showed the brutality of slavery, deliberately softening history to appeal to white audiences. Even worse, the film popularized racist stereotypes across the globe. Characters like Mammy and Prissy became templates that Hollywood copied for decades, limiting how black actors could be seen on screen. Selznick claimed he wanted to stay faithful to the novel, but historians argue he made conscious choices that glorified the Confederacy. The legacy of Gone with the Wind still sparks debate today. And if Selznick glorified slavery, the next actress brought those prejudices right onto the set. Moving forward to number 12, Vivien Leigh.
I want $300 to pay the taxes on Tara. Oh, Red, I did lie to you when I said everything was all right.
Vivien Leigh became immortal as Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind 1939. The film made her a global icon, and she even won the Academy Award for Best Actress. But behind the charm was a harsher reality. On set, Leigh often made dismissive remarks to black extras, reportedly refusing to interact with them outside of filming. While she embodied the romanticized Southern belle, she privately mirrored the racist attitudes of that character. Many black actors like Hattie McDaniel, who became the first black Oscar winner, were forced to eat separately at the awards banquet, and Leigh never challenged this humiliation. Even later, she defended the film's beauty, ignoring how it erased the horrors of slavery. Her glamour blinded audiences to the painful stereotypes the movie reinforced for decades. Leigh's star power kept the myth of the lost cause alive in pop culture. But if Leigh represented prejudice in costume, the next actor used his personal voice and influence to push segregation openly. Next in line, number 11, Gary Cooper.
You've been my friend all my life. You got me this job. You made him send for me.
Gary Cooper, the tall cowboy hero of High Noon, 1952, symbolized rugged American values. He won 2 Academy Awards for Best Actor and starred in over 80 films. But behind his calm screen persona, his political choices spoke loudly. In 1947, when the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, targeted Hollywood, Cooper testified in support of the investigations. He claimed he had turned down roles in communist leading scripts, feeding the blacklist era that destroyed many writers' and actors' careers. His stance silenced voices who were branded un-American without evidence. Even more, Cooper aligned with conservative groups that quietly backed segregationist policies in the 1950s. While adored as the all-American man, his off-screen decisions helped uphold barriers against racial progress in Hollywood. Audiences loved him as the noble sheriff in High Noon, but his real-life politics mirrored the very mob mentality that film warned against. And if Cooper backed the system from the sidelines, the next figure used comedy itself as a weapon of cruelty. Moving on to number 10, W.C. Fields.
Are you the great McGonagall?
I am Sawyer.
Then I have something to give you.
Huh?
There.
Thank you very much.
W.C. Fields, with his crooked nose and sharp wit, became one of Hollywood's first great comedy stars. From vaudeville stages in the early 1900s to films like It's a Gift, 1934, his jokes shaped American humor. But the laughter often hid something darker. Fields regularly filled his routines with racist stereotypes. He mocked black servants, Chinese immigrants, and Jewish shopkeepers, making them the punchlines for white audiences. Offstage, colleagues recalled he used slurs casually, treating prejudice as humor. His act reached millions. By the late 1930s, Fields was among the highest-paid actors in Hollywood, and his films earned over $1 million annually. Yet his comedy didn't age well. What audiences once roared at now reveals how Hollywood normalized racism through jokes. His persona as the grumpy, drunken outsider still entertains, but his treatment of marginalized groups lingers like a bitter aftertaste. And if Fields used comedy for mockery, the next legend, Spencer Tracy, wielded power through silence and exclusion. Now, at number 9, Spencer Tracy.
What the hell is going on here?
This doesn't make sense either.
Spencer Tracy, one of Hollywood's most respected actors, won 2 consecutive Oscars in the 1930s, a feat only a handful achieved. He starred in classics like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, 1967, where he portrayed a father grappling with interracial marriage. On screen, that seemed progressive. Off screen, it was another story. Crew members remembered Tracy using racial slurs casually, even when cameras weren't rolling. He resisted casting non-white actors in meaningful roles, quietly reinforcing the walls Hollywood built. Despite earning over $200,000 per film in the 1940s, a fortune then, he never used his influence to push for change. Tracy's reputation as a serious actor masked the fact that he upheld an industry where minorities rarely got fair shots. His silence spoke volumes. By never challenging racism, he helped keep Hollywood doors closed. But if Tracy's prejudice worked behind closed sets, the next figure, Errol Flynn, brought scandal into the headlines with flamboyant, dangerous flair. Coming in at number 8, Errol Flynn.
I'll organize a revolt. Exact a death for a death.
Errol Flynn, the dashing star of Captain Blood, 1935, and The Adventures of Robin Hood, 1938, earned nearly $2 million in today's money per film at his peak. To millions, he was the ultimate hero, sword in hand, smile flashing, but behind the charm, darker stories swirled. Flynn faced 2 highly publicized trials in 1943 for statutory rape, both involving underage girls. Though acquitted, the phrase "in like Flynn" entered slang as a grim reminder of his reputation. Whispered rumors tied him to Nazi sympathies during the 1930s, especially after journalists claimed he socialized with German agents in Europe. Friends recalled him making racist remarks at Hollywood parties, mocking minorities even as he profited from films glorifying colonial adventures. He embodied the contradiction of Hollywood glamour, adored on screen, yet reckless, cruel, and destructive off it. And while Flynn's scandals filled newspapers, Bing Crosby's secrets brewed quietly in country clubs and private gatherings. His story reveals how polished images often hid exclusion and cruelty. Now at number 7, Bing Crosby.
You know, I've written special music for each holiday. This sort of gives me a chance to keep a little promise I made to myself.
Bing Crosby, the velvet-voiced singer of White Christmas, 1942, sold over 100 million records worldwide and became one of America's most beloved entertainers. His radio shows, films, and recordings dominated the 1930s to 1950s, making him a household name across the globe. But behind the wholesome image was a world of exclusivity and silence. Crosby belonged to the elite country clubs that barred Black, Jewish, and Asian members, reinforcing Hollywood's quiet segregation. In private circles, he was known for trading racist jokes, far from the warm family man persona his movies projected. Even his personal life carried shadows. His sons later described him as distant, controlling, and sometimes cruel at home. Crosby's voice may have united a nation at Christmas, but his choices offstage reveal how deep exclusion ran in mid-century Hollywood. His charm was carefully polished, leaving the darker truths hidden beneath melody and mistletoe. And if Crosby hid behind song, the next star, Leslie Howard, has a story to tell of its own. Next is number 6, Leslie Howard.
What you thinking about?
You were having quite a flirtation with Griffith last night.
Leslie Howard, the refined British actor best remembered as Ashley Wilkes in Gone with the Wind, 1939, was admired for his soft voice and noble presence. That film became one of the most successful in history, earning over $390 million adjusted today, and seen by millions worldwide. But its heart was dangerous nostalgia. It painted slavery as civilized and the Confederacy as noble. Howard publicly defended the film's vision, calling it dignified despite protests from black audiences and the NAACP. His endorsement helped cement Gone with the Wind as untouchable Hollywood legend, even though it erased the brutality of slavery and glorified a false Old South. Off-screen, Howard enjoyed a reputation as cultured and intellectual, yet he lent his prestige to a story that deepened racist myths for generations. His role shows how even the most gentlemanly stars reinforced harmful narratives simply by standing still. And if Howard upheld slavery's image with quiet elegance, the next figure, Fred Astaire, used music and dance itself to disguise prejudice. Moving on to number 5, Fred Astaire.
There's a fellow that won't take yes for an answer.
Fred Astaire is still hailed as the greatest dancer in film history. With Ginger Rogers, he dazzled in musicals like Top Hat, 1935, earning millions at the box office and redefining Hollywood choreography. Critics called his movies weightless perfection, but one of his most famous numbers carried a stain. In Swing Time, 1936, Astaire performed Bojangles of Harlem in full blackface, using burnt cork makeup while imitating Bill Bojangles Robinson, a legendary black tap dancer who broke barriers on Broadway. Instead of sharing the screen with Robinson, Astaire mimicked him and white audiences applauded. Astaire claimed the routine was meant as a tribute, but it reinforced a cruel system. Black talent inspired the art while being kept out of the spotlight. Robinson himself, despite starring alongside Shirley Temple, never reached Astaire's level of stardom or wealth. Astaire's grace made history, but his choice to step into blackface reminds us how even beauty and art can hide painful exclusions. And if Astaire danced around prejudice, Cecil B. DeMille built it straight into Hollywood's grandest epics. Next up, number 4, Cecil B. DeMille.
This Oscar goes to Cecil B. DeMille.
Cecil B. DeMille, the director behind blockbusters like The Ten Commandments, 1956, and Samson and Delilah, 1949, helped invent the modern epic. His films drew crowds into the tens of millions and grossed over $120 million in his lifetime, an enormous sum for the era. But DeMille also guarded Hollywood's gates. He lobbied to keep film sets segregated and resisted calls to hire black or Asian actors into meaningful roles. Instead, he filled biblical and historical epics with white stars painted in brown face or yellow face. Charlton Heston as Moses, Yul Brynner as Ramses, all were part of DeMille's grand but distorted vision. Behind the camera, he was fiercely political. DeMille supported the Hollywood blacklist during the Red Scare and even pressured fellow directors to name suspected communists. His power in Hollywood meant silence for those who disagreed. DeMille's spectacles built Hollywood's mythic image, but at the cost of truth and representation. And while DeMille staged oppression in marble temples, Al Jolson strutted across the screen in blackface, changing cinema forever. Now at number 3, Al Jolson.
Up next, folks. You lucky people.
Al Jolson was once called the world's greatest entertainer. In 1927, he starred in The Jazz Singer, Hollywood's first talking picture. That film revolutionized cinema, earning $2.6 million in its first release, huge for the time, and signaling the end of the silent era. But Jolson made history in blackface. His performance, painted with burnt cork, turned racist minstrel traditions into mainstream entertainment. Songs like Mammy became famous, but they carried stereotypes that mocked African Americans. Jolson defended himself, claiming he loved black culture and even supported some black musicians privately. Yet the truth is clear, his biggest success came from caricature, not inclusion. Black performers like Paul Robeson and Bessie Smith struggled for work, while Jolson thrived in roles that excluded them. His voice ushered in modern cinema, but the image he wore was a mask built on centuries of racial humiliation. And if Jolson created sound with blackface, Walter Brennan used his voice in real life to cheer one of history's darkest moments. Coming in at number 2, Walter Brennan.
Oh, stop cackling. Get one a little farther out there.
There you go again.
Walter Brennan won 3 Academy Awards for Best Supporting Actor, more than almost anyone in history. Known for his kindly old man roles in Come and Get It, 1936, and Kentucky, 1938, he became one of Hollywood's most reliable faces. But behind the screen, Brennan held extreme views. Reports from crew members and acquaintances say he loudly celebrated when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in 1968. At the time, 200,000 people marched in mourning, while Brennan, already a wealthy Hollywood icon, spread segregationist propaganda instead. He was also a fierce supporter of right-wing movements, even backing groups tied to white supremacy. While millions of Americans were fighting for civil rights, Brennan aligned himself with those resisting change. The irony? His on-screen characters often stood for fairness and justice, while his private beliefs pulled in the opposite direction. And if Brennan cheered violence in real life, John Wayne, our number one, defended white supremacy with the full force of his legendary Hollywood image. Finally, number 1, John Wayne.
You want a closer look?
It's close enough.
John Wayne, nicknamed the Duke, became America's most famous cowboy. His films like Stagecoach, 1939, and True Grit, 1969, earned over $700 million combined at the box office, making him a global symbol of rugged masculinity. For 25 years, he ranked among the top 10 box office stars. No actor has matched that record. But Wayne's legacy carried a darker side. In a 1971 Playboy interview, he openly defended white supremacy, saying he believed in white rule and dismissed Native American suffering by claiming they were selfishly trying to keep land. These words shocked even in their own time. Wayne's movies often reflected his worldview. Indigenous people portrayed as savages, while colonial violence was glorified as heroic. Off-screen, he opposed civil rights movements and criticized progressive actors who spoke against racism. Millions still idolized Wayne as the face of the American West. Yet, his influence also spread damaging stereotypes that shaped public opinion for decades. And with Wayne's shadow closing the list, Hollywood's golden age shines far less golden once you see its hidden cracks. Thanks for watching. If these scandals from old Hollywood shocked you, wait until you see who risked it all to fight back. Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more hidden Hollywood truths. Your support helps uncover the stories history hides.